Thomas, the one called Didymus, one of the 12, wasn't with the disciples when Jesus came. The other disciples told him, "We've seen the Lord." But he replied, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, put my finger in his wounds left by the nails, and put my hand into his side, I won't believe." After 8 days, his disciples were again in a house, and Thomas was with them. Even though the doors were locked, Jesus entered and stood among them. He said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. Look at my hands. Put your hand into my side. No more disbelief. Believe." Thomas responded to Jesus, "My Lord and my God." Jesus replied, "Do you believe because you see me? Happy are those who don't see and yet believe." Then Jesus did many other miraculous signs in his disciples' presence, signs that aren't recorded in this scroll. But these things are written so that you will believe that Jesus is the Christ, God's Son, and that believing you will have life in his name. Aficionados of pop psychology personality typing would have a clear category for Thomas. The man is all judgment and no intuition. The extreme nature of his requirement to believe, actually having to place his fingers in the wounds, sets this man apart and earns him the title of Doubting Thomas. Titles, labels, nicknames, diagnoses can be freeing. They give us insight into the gifts and graces God has provided for our journey. They can also be boundaries that deny us the ability to become the people God has called us to be. The way that labels empower and impair in the secular world is vividly demonstrated to me on a daily basis in my work in the jail system. Confronted by the risen Christ, doubting Thomas becomes believing Thomas, far short of plunging his fingers or hands into open wounds. The Gospels contain story after story of the ancient equivalent of hookers, junkies, and schizophrenics, as well as lawyers, attorneys, prosecutors, and guards, who were born anew when confronted by the living Christ. The interesting thing about many gospel stories is that those with shameful titles were often the first to embrace Jesus, while those with honorable labels walked away in disgust. As we are followers of Jesus Christ, the only labels of concern to us are those we willingly embrace for ourselves. The first is sinner, for only in understanding our own fallen nature can we fully appreciate the loving power and forgiveness of God. The other is Christian, for it identifies us as people who, having recognized our fallen nature, follow the one who has brought us into forgiveness. What is my label, nickname, or title? How does it empower or impair me in my walk with God?